Hi everyone, this is just a quick demonstration of how to use draw.io in order to create a diagram for AWS. So without further ado, let's start here. I'll just hit draw.io, the flowchart maker loads up, and once you've got it up, we can decide where we're going to save our diagrams to. I'm just going to click decide later on this. You can pick it straight away depending on what you want to do, but for the moment we'll just decide later on. So once you come in, you see that we've got a basic diagram field in the middle. We've got a whole series of various different icons here at the side. I'll just close these down for the moment. These are just some of the standard stuff that turn up, which we can use, but to start with, I want to load up a series of things for AWS. So down the bottom here is another thing called more shapes. If I click in there, I get a lot more shapes to look at, and when I come down to the networking, I see that I've got 3 AWS shapes. I'm going to click on AWS 18. This is probably a reasonable one. It allows you to get a number of different things there, different groups, the analytics, applications, etc. So for me, that looks like the one. If you want to choose 17 or 19, that's fine. There's also 3D versions there as well. But personally, I just like the 18 series. Apply that, and as we scroll down here now, we see we've now got a whole stack of different things. So as I said in the lecture, I normally like to start with the networking side, because I know once I've got networking in place, then I can start to do all sorts of other things and put things into place. So I'll start off with some groups, because I want to really put in a couple of subnets. So as I scroll over these, I can see they give me a whole range of different things, a VPC, a subnet. So there's one subnet, different subnet. Let's just use the subnet. We'll drag a subnet out here, and we'll put that there. We'll make it a bit bigger because it's probably going to need to be a little larger. So there's that. So we really need a public and a private one. So let's drag another one out and put it down there. Make it a similar size. Not quite. Perhaps a little larger. We've got a few more things we want to put into that one. And then we can change this. So I just click on the name, and then I can change this to private subnet. Now, I like to change colors on these so that I know straight away which is which. So I will make the private subnet a darker color, and what I'll do is I'll drop the opacity down to about probably 50%. So I can still quite easily see it, but by color I can recognize it straight away. The top subnet we're going to make is the public subnet, and I will change that to possibly green, also with a 50% capacity. Okay, so now we've got our 2 subnets in place. The first thing we need if we're going to use subnets is we're probably going to need to have some sort of access to it. So I go down to the network and contents thing, and as we go through here, we see we've got customer gateways, adapters, endpoints, an internet gateway. That's probably what I'll need to start with. So if I just drag that up there and say, there is my internet gateway, right? It sits there, and I want to put an arrow from that into the public subnet. So I can see that I've got that happening. So we've got a direction into the public subnet. The private subnet, we want to be accessible. We need to pass some data to it. So we're going to need a router. So we look through one of these, we find the one for the router. So we drag our router up and we put it in between them. We probably need a little bit more room here. So we'll drop this one down a bit further. There, and then we can put arrows in both directions so that we've got a router between them to allow connectivity. Now, to get to our private subnet, we're probably going to be coming in from somewhere outside. So what we really need then to look for is a VPN gateway. So let's put the VPN gateway in place there. This is where we'll access it from internally or externally, or probably from our internal network. So we'll put that there for the moment. So now we have the basics of our network. We've got an internet gateway, a public subnet, a connection between the two, and a VPN gateway. Realistically, because we're coming into a private subnet, we want to make sure that we know who's coming into it. So this is where we'd start to then look at loading up the identity and access management. So we could use that one. That'll do quite fine. We can put that in place there in the middle. And we can say on this, we want to connect through to identity and access management. And then from there, we want to connect to the public subnet. So it means we're actually looking at putting some authentication authorization in place. So that's going to happen between us. So remember, a very simple diagram. So there's the very basics of our network. Now, from there, you might decide, okay, let's just use one thing. We've got a web service we want to put in there. So if we go back up to general resources up here, we see we've got an internet service. We don't actually have a web service as well, but an internet service is probably the sort of thing we're looking for. So if we throw that out, we can put that up here, and again, change the name of this to a web service. Right? So now we have a web service there. We know that we have some servers to run that web service down here, so we can pull up a server. We can look our list of servers. We can look for, Windows servers, SAP servers, MySQL servers, Exchange servers, generic server. That might have to be the job. We don't actually have a Linux server per se, but we can use that there, and we can throw that under there like that, and we can give it a name of where is it? I've lost it. Anyway, we can give it a name later. But now we've got a position where we can say, if we want to, we can point to our arrows and say, I want an arrow to run here. Drag that from there up to. Sometimes these arrows have a mind of their own. Up to here. Let's try that again. Okay, so the arrow is on there, and we're going to run that. Down to here. Okay, so there's the details coming through to our web service. Now, we might also say, for our web service, we're going to have some storage within the thing. So we'll be looking at some BBS Elastic Block storage, possibly living within the private store, the private subnet, so that we can use another arrow. To there. So we can put data into there. So this is the basics of it. Right? From there you work your way through the different requirements that are shown in the assignment, and you can put the thing together. The best thing is once you save it, you can then save it to your local device, to your particular cloud drive. You can save it as a draw.io file, or you can save it as a diagram, such as a PNG or JPEG file. So that's the basics of it. I mean, for this first assignment 2, the first part of assignment 2, you're only really required to get a fairly basic diagram showing what you think it's going to look like, right? So I'm not looking for you to give enormous amounts of detail. I am looking for you to give me an indication of what it is you think has got to be included in this. So it's a fairly straightforward type of thing. You'll need to work through those resources, and I would suggest have a look at them first, play with it a couple of times, look at the requirements for the DR Alarms case study, and then you should be able to work it out fairly quickly. And bear in mind that you may have to think about splitting the services. So, you know, if a web service is going to be public, then part of it must be probably in the public subnet, and part of it will be in the private subnet. And then you've got to think about the storage and so forth. There it is, guys. It's a fairly straightforward sort of approach. As I said, we're not looking for enormous amounts of data, enormous amounts of detail, but we are looking for you to think about how would you present this to DR Alarms? How would you show them a diagram that says, this is what we think it will look like, this is where your customers will come in, this is where you will come in. So it may be a little bit more complex than this, almost certainly will, but it shouldn't be that complex that you can't figure it, that, you know, it becomes unmanageable. So play with that. If you've got any problems, give us a call, throw something on the discussion forum, and we'll help you out as far as we can. I hope you enjoy this. It's kind of a fun thing, and it does help to crystallize your ideas. So have a bit of a play with that.